I can recognize that the title of this video may seem more than just a little exaggerative in nature, but if you'll allow me a few minutes to explain my position, then I hope that you'll understand by the end of it. Now, before we begin, I would like to preface by saying that Unity is easily one of my favorite games in the entire Assassin's Creed franchise. In fact, it only comes behind Brotherhood and 2, in that order. My feelings for this game are not born out of hate, they are born out of love. Much like your favorite basketball team missing the playoffs despite having all the talent that they need in order to win a championship, but all the pieces just refuse to come together into something beyond the sum of their parts, and it just leaves you disappointed and heartbroken. That's much of how I've come to feel about this game over the last 10.5 years since its launch, and before we continue, this video is sponsored by my Patreon. More on that later in the video. In many ways, Unity is the most impactful and transformative game in the series, even to this day. But by that same token, it is plagued by such a unique and particular set of issues that don't seem to be present in any of the other games that came before or after. That's truly the source of all of my gripes with this game, is that every innovation or improvement that was made with this title comes with some sort of caveat, that any praise you could offer then has to have an asterisk on it for one reason or another. The parkour has been completely revised and you now have more control over it than you ever have. But unless you have dozens of hours of experience, it's almost impossible to get it to behave in a consistent manner. The combat is less arcadey and has more dedicated mechanics, but it also has fewer mechanics than the last 3 games, and it's harder to deal with crowds of enemies despite encountering more than you ever did in Black Flag. It kind of goes back and forth like that in every single aspect, and it makes for a game that can hardly be considered to be anything more than pretty good, but nowhere near great. It's my intention to explain what I mean and how it relates to each element of the game, from story to parkour to character to even setting. So let's start with that last one, since it'll probably be the easiest one to talk about. The French Revolution is described by many scholars and historians to be one of, if not the most violent and bloody revolution in the history of the world. There were public executions, there was civil war, civilians were being gunned down and practically obliterated by cannon fire. Even the king and his wife were not exempt of this horror, as the entire endeavor culminated in the 2 of them being beheaded in the heart of Paris. The people of France laid down life and limb to snatch liberation from the jaws of tyranny, and no amount of anarchy was considered too high a price to pay. It was by far the most interesting setting that had ever been announced for an Assassin's Creed game, and if it was anything like AC3, Arno would be instrumental in ensuring the outcome known to history and helping to achieve freedom. However, ultimately, it's nothing more than a backdrop to a story about long-lost love and cookie-cutter revenge. Hell, even the siege of the Bastille is reduced to an excuse for Arno to get back into the main plot of the game after an hour, and it's never mentioned again. And you meet Napoleon, but only once, and it's long before he reaches the status we most know him for, and then he just reappears in a non-canon DLC. Even Maximilien Robespierre is only in the game for maybe 5 minutes, and to make matters worse, nobody even has a French accent. Nobody even gets guillotined. It's shocking that a French developer would get so lazy when making a game like this that takes place during the French Revolution, but here we are. Next, I'd like to talk about the characters. This was the first big game to come after Black Flag, and that's a big deal because the bar was set exceptionally high, especially in regards to character. Not only did Edward Kenway shoot to the top of the list of favorite video game protagonists for a lot of people, even outside of just the Assassin's Creed franchise, but it also boasted an incredibly popular set of supporting characters. Adewale, Blackbeard, Mary Reed, and Bonnie, the list goes on. This time, nobody in the supporting cast outside of Elise de la Serre, the love interest, and her dad, whose murder you're trying to solve at the beginning, and Pierre Bellic, your mentor who goes rogue, have managed to even plant their names in my memory. Even Arno himself often fails to rise above his contemporaries in any meaningful way. He's motivated by revenge, just like Ezio was at the beginning and how Connor was for his entire game. He views the world with juvenile naivety, just like they did too at one point. His personality is much like that of a spoiled aristocratic brat, which of course he is, but over the course of this 20-hour campaign, he never really grows out of it. At a certain point, though, he does turn into a lovesick puppy, which, as far as I can tell, is still unique to him, so there's that at least. His arrogance, self-righteousness, general whininess, and refusal to follow directions doesn't make him a maverick. It doesn't make him cool. It makes him an asshole, and it makes him insufferable. And he just turns into Batman at the end when the woman he loved gets herself killed. While we're on this road, let's talk about the story. This game came out during a stretch of about 4 titles where Ubisoft continued to ask the question, what if the Templars and the Assassins weren't so different, without ever really trying to offer any type of answer. In AC3, you're the son of an assassin turned Templar, who almost convinces you to see things his way due to the love that the characters have for each other. In 4, you work for the Templars for a good amount of time, in the past and present, before defecting when things go too far. In Rogue, you leave the Assassins and become a Templar, where things don't really change, you just kind of keep doing the exact same thing that you used to. And here, you're an assassin raised by a Templar, and you fell in love with one. To take things one step further, though, the two orders have found a way to coexist peacefully in France, as they've reconciled their differences and worked towards peace in their own respective ways. Admittedly, this is an interesting concept, especially when you come to find out that there are players on both sides who are dissatisfied with the status quo and have taken matters into their own hands to force the conflict to continue. On the Assassin side, it's Belek, who I mentioned earlier, and on the Templar side, it's the main antagonist, Francois Germain. Pardon the interruption, it's your boy Toxic Boyo, and I wanted to take a brief moment to let you know about the Toxic Touch Productions Patreon. I'm not currently monetized on YouTube, but I still want to bring you the best content that I possibly can. I want to make those videos that you love, and I want them to be the best that they can be. But I need a little help. That's where you guys come in. If you want to support me directly, you can head on over to patreon.com/ToxicTouchProductions or click the link in the description or the pinned comment. For even just $5 a month, you can get your name included in the credits at the end of the video, gain access to exclusive channels on the Discord, and you get specialized merch at no extra cost. It only gets better as the tiers go higher. Go check it out. Thanks for listening and thanks for supporting my dreams. Now let's get back to the video. Germain is a sage, which is a concept introduced in the previous game, Black Flag. Particulars don't exactly matter too much to what we're discussing here today. What is important is that he feels as though the Templar Order has grown decadent and impotent over the course of this truce with the Assassins, and if they are ever to return to their rightful place with the world under their heel, action must be taken and change must be forced. It's to that end that he arranges the murder of Monsieur de la Serre at the beginning of the game, who may or may not have a first name. This leads to a retaliatory action by the Assassins, and evolves into a back-and-forth struggle between the two factions that allows for high-power players to be removed in a specific manner so that he may assume control and remake the Templar Order the way that he sees fit. Now, this is a fascinating angle that's only made possible by the particular circumstances that the game has presented to us. Honestly, if I had to harp on the legitimate narrative of this game for any particular reason, it would just be that the game seems too preoccupied trying to be a love story at times rather than a comprehensive, cerebral political conspiracy thriller like it wants to be. And beyond that, it utterly fails to make use of its own setting in any significant manner. As interesting as it is on the surface, it doesn't go any deeper than that. As it is right now, it's pretty good, but it could be a whole lot better if they focused on the right areas. From there, I would like to briefly discuss the game's presentation and the way that it holds up over a decade later. If I'm being completely honest with you, it's hard to say that the game has aged anything less than beautifully. The sheer size of the map, the scale of the buildings that you can climb, the number of NPCs that can exist on screen at one time, the lighting techniques that they use, the amount of detail in the character's hair, and yes, how photoreal the faces look. It was all mind-blowing in 2014, and it's not ridiculous to say that it still looks the best out of any game in the franchise, even though, technically speaking, it is an artifact in comparison to the most recent release, AC Shadows. Is there trickery at play? Almost certainly. Do I care? Not in the least. That being said though, this fidelity did not come without a price. If you were online anywhere when this game released, then you know that it did so in a tragic state. It was littered with bugs, so many in fact, that it was virtually unplayable for weeks and cantankerous for months. While I had a mostly smooth experience when I initially played it on Xbox One, I can acknowledge that I got lucky. Millions of other players did not, and maybe it's not fair to look at it that way anymore, but it's woven into the game's legacy, and it does a disservice to ignore it, especially because even now, When I play the PS4 version, I can't really exist in that world for more than 10 minutes before weird things start to happen. Another thing that sets this game apart from most of the others is the absurd amount of side content. There are Paris stories, cafe theater missions, helix rifts that pull you across time, murder mysteries, Nostradamus enigmas, co-op missions, heists, and more. Beyond that, there are collectibles like chests, artifacts, and cockades? Cockades? Don't really know how to say that word. Littered all over the city. And I do mean littered. Look. Just look at how cluttered this map is. It's insane. There's so much content in the game that you just don't even want to engage with it. Or at least I didn't. And I'm someone who has achieved 100% completion in Brotherhood and Black Flag, which I found utterly tedious in some places. In this game, though, I played the main story, the helix rifts, and the co-op content, and that was pretty much it. The game is so feature-rich, but a lot of those features just have you run to a place, pop eagle vision, run to another place, pop eagle vision, and then maybe you kill someone or do some climbing. It's utterly mind-numbing. Maybe you feel a similar way, maybe you don't, but anytime I boot the game up now, I ignore everything and I just run around Paris. It's unfortunate because I know how hard they worked on this game, but it doesn't give me an intrinsic motivation to want to play more of it than necessary, despite how much I truly do love it. Which means it's time to strap in and dive headfirst into the gameplay. Now, this is where what I said earlier about there being an asterisk on everything really does come into play. Let's talk parkour first. This game revolutionized the system by allowing you to press a button to either free run up or free run down, giving you the finest control over your movements that you've ever had. You can vault over objects, slide under them, you name it. The back eject has also been reworked, and it seems as though no height is out of reach when you're performing a climbing leap. That being said, however, more moving pieces typically means more potential points of failure, and this is no different. This parkour system is one of the most inconsistent systems in any game I've ever played until you master it through sheer spite, and even then, you still can't quite get it to do what it's supposed to do. Sometimes Arno can thundercunt himself 10 feet horizontally with no drop. Other times, a 3 feet vertical leap is just unheard of. Sometimes, the precise positioning of the thumbstick doesn't have too much bearing on where Arno moves because the game generally knows what you mean. Other times, having the stick moved 1 nanometer to the left will send him flying in the entire wrong direction and you'll fall to your death for no reason. Sometimes, performing a free run down will get him to drop from one ledge to the one right below. Other times, pressing that same button will make him hand the reins over to Jesus as he just lets go of everything and falls. You can't even get him to enter an open window consistently, for crying out loud. Next up, let's talk combat. While it's nice that it's more deliberate and less gimmicky than it had been in the previous trilogy, it does not come without its own set of problems. Gone are the days of human shields. Now the only way to avoid getting shot is to wait until the red warning symbol starts glowing and press the button to roll, which only appears when you're directly engaged in combat. So if you're overwhelmed by numbers and decide to drop a smoke bomb to escape, and a sniper just so happens to reacquire your position, you can't do anything to stop them from shooting you. And this is the game where you're going to deal with the most enemies that have guns, so you'll be getting shot a lot. This sort of thing happens almost ceaselessly in the co-op missions when things are scaled up to accommodate 2 or even 4 players. This is also where enemies first started having levels displayed above their heads in the form of a number of little diamond shapes. The lower level enemies can typically be one-shot with a heavy attack by a high-level weapon. The higher level enemies can parry, dodge, or deflect your attacks virtually no matter what level weapon you're using. When you're only up against 2, maybe 3 enemies, this isn't so bad. But once you're surrounded by these enemies that continue to play the game the way that they want to, regardless of your equipment, weapon, or the funky little title that they put next to your username, it gets to be more than just a little irritating. Let's talk about stealth just briefly. I'll happily give credit where it's due and admit that the stealth mechanics are probably at their most robust here. You can deploy a smoke bomb for a strategic hit and run on your target. You can fire berserk blades from a distance to make enemies take each other out, or use phantom blades to silently drop them without drawing notice. There's even a disguise ability that Arno can use to literally transform into any enemy or NPC he has in his sightline. It's an instrumental tool to have at your disposal when you're going into a massive restricted area, and in certain missions, you even have opportunities to manipulate the circumstances in your favor, allowing other NPCs to indirectly help you eliminate your target. It's something that's sorely missed in the following titles that I would have loved to see built upon over time into something even more intricate that allowed 10 different players to kill a target 10 different ways. As it is, though, it's simply something that leaves you wanting more. Here, towards the end, it's time for some more miscellaneous things that have kind of bugged me for the last 11 or so years. First, the main story likes to just give Arno crucial information to the plot via some sort of telepathic ability that activates when he kills someone. He can literally see their memories, and he says this to the Brotherhood, who just move past it like it's normal. Now, I'm familiar with the Animus deathbed conversations of old, but the games never used to treat that like a real thing that's actually happening. It doesn't come up in conversation later. This one does, but I don't think any other character has demonstrated this ability. Maybe it is unique to Arno, but they don't say nearly enough about it. Next up is that there's a point in the story where Arno is excommunicated from their Brotherhood because he keeps ignoring orders and picking his own targets. But then, at the end, he picks his own target again and defies orders that he was given earlier on in the game, and this time he's rewarded by being welcomed back into the Brotherhood with open arms and made a master for some reason. I just don't get it. Lastly, this game boasts a highly sophisticated customization system wherein you can mix and match different outfit pieces from different sets, including your hood, your coat, your belt, your gloves, and your pants. However, and this is something that I have tried to disprove for years, it is almost impossible to create an outfit that looks good unless everything you wear is from the same exact set. It feels like it defeats the purpose of having customization like this if the pieces hardly ever come together to look good. Ultimately, guys, Assassin's Creed Unity is and will always be one of my favorite games in the franchise, despite the warts. It may show its age in places, and playing it can sometimes feel more like aggressive negotiations where you're trying to enforce your will on your enemy, but overall, I'll never forget the experience that I had when I was 15 and playing this game for the very first time. And for as much trouble as it's given me over the years, it's still the only one that I ever fire up when I feel like running around and stabbing folks with a hidden blade on my wrist. Now don't take that out of context. Check out the Patreon if you feel so inclined, and until next time, be safe out there. It's scary sometimes.